Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to be sharing how I paint light in my work. I'm going to be breaking it down into 3 parts, and throughout the video I'm going to be sharing my tips and thought process when it comes to adding light and balancing light. So without further ado, let's get started with part 1. Alright, so for the first part I always draw a quick sketch of what I'm drawing, and in this case I'm drawing Homer from the episode Whacking Day. I think it's called Whacking Day. You have to correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, it's that episode where he's like training to be a professional whacker. That sounds so weird. Anyway, I digress. To start off, I always get the base values down, so I'm not thinking about any details or anything. I'm just thinking about color, shape, to get the tones, and it sets me up for the next steps. So if you've been seeing my Instagram lately, I've been posting digital illustrations of characters with 2 sources of light, and it's been really interesting trying to understand how color works and how it interacts with the character. So with this one, I wanted to take what I've learnt with the digital illustrations and bring it into the painting. So I always, like I said, start off with the simple, getting the colour down and finding the values and positioning where the light will bounce off the character. It's always the best thing to do this first, I've found, because you're doing the hard work now, and then later you can just refine and add detail. In this painting there's going to be 2 light sources, one blue on the right side of Homer's head and one yellow where his hands are placed on the front side of him. This way there will be a strong blue light on the right side of his head, and then there will be another strong yellow or orange light on the other side. So this way there will be 2 different light sources complementing each other. And if you take a look at the color wheel, if you quickly type that up, you will see that blue and orange are complementary colors, so they're on the opposite side of the color wheel. So this is great, and it will really bring a nice juxtaposition in my painting. So whenever you're choosing light, you've got to make sure that the light complements other light in your work. There's so many great artists that have really mastered light, and I'm by nowhere near like their capabilities of understanding it. But this is what I've just started to learn and to understand, how it kind of interacts with, and how important it is to select the colours that complement each other. The video you've been seeing on screen now is me using acrylic paint. The reason why I choose to use acrylic paint first for the base layer is that it dries really fast. I mean, because it's water based, it doesn't take too long for it to dry. A couple minutes is all it really takes, which is great for when you just want to add the colour down and get it down quickly. Like I said before, remember that this is just the first layer, so even if you make a mistake now, it's okay. The main thing you want to worry about is just getting the paint down and getting it there so that you can work on top of and refine later. So one of the reasons why I love painting is that you can paint over your mistakes, especially in the base colour and the first part of your process. It's always important to make those mistakes, and don't worry if you do. It's going to be okay, and you can always paint over in the next steps. I think there's a big misconception when it comes to painting. A lot of people get scared when they do make a mistake and they don't know how to, fix it. But in reality, it's just a matter of just painting over the next layer once it's dry, So take your time with it. Once you're happy, you can move on to the next step. So now that the acrylic base is complete, I can then move on to oil paint. And with the oil paint, I'm going to focus not on the base color or the tone. I'm going to focus on details and add in richer colors on top of the base colors. This is the part of the process where I've got the main work down in the acrylic base layer part. So I don't need to worry too much about if I'm doing things wrong now. The hard part was the part before, but with this part, now that I'm working with oils and I've got much more time working with oils, I can then now add detail and make the colours richer than it was before. So my mindset going into the oil painting is that I try to match the colours that I used in the acrylic base layer, using oils as an opportunity to add detail. So I select those colours and then I add deeper and lighter tones to it. Once I add multiple colours to the painting with oil, I can then blend with a dry brush. This allows each colour to be blended together nicely. It's really interesting once you play around with how oil works, and that you've got so much more time than if you were to use acrylics. So you've got to take advantage of what you can use with different, with either acrylics or oils. And with oils, the main thing is that you have time. If you've never used oil paints or have only used acrylic, you can do the exact same process with the acrylic. It doesn't have to be oils, but for me, I just felt oils would be really cool for me to have the time to mess about with how the colour interacts with Homer here. As you can see on screen now, I'm adding in the background, and a lot of it is straight from my head, so I'm not using any reference or anything. So it does take me quite a while for me to get the right balance with colour. Usually I never really plan out my paintings, and I really like how there's a journey to painting that when you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of just continue to figure it out through just putting in the time and working on it. So with the background, I really didn't know how much the light would interact with the background, but I soon find the balance, and it definitely gets there in the end. But it took me a long time to blend and add and blend colours together. And yeah, again, oil paint is something that I think everyone should try at least once, just to show you just to see and show for yourself that you can blend colours much more easier with oil. One thing that I would like to add is that I'm using liquid. If you don't know what liquid is, you can mix it into your oil paint and it will help with the drying time. It will still be really long. It would be about 24 hours until it actually starts to dry, but it saves so much time. If you didn't use it, it would take over a week for it to fully dry. So you still have that working time that you can mess around and change the light and colour for a long time. But usually I like to finish my paintings in a day or two. And I'm much more used to that with working with acrylics mostly. But because I'm used to that drying time, having a little more patience with the liquid is perfect for me. Yeah, I definitely recommend something like liquid to help speed up the drying times of oils, because even if you're using oil straight out the tube, it can actually take months for it to dry, and you know, that it gets really annoying for me when I'm always doing art and I'm always creating and I want to finish a painting, but it's always going to be wet. So yeah, look into something that will help speed up drying times. Okay, so for the third and final part of my process, I go over all the lines that are in my work with a Posca pen. Now that the oil has dried for over 24 hours, and with the help of Liquin, I can finally go over the outlines with a Posca pen. Posca pens are really good for just adding a quick splash of paint onto your canvas. I love that the Posca pens are acrylic based, which means I can paint on pretty much anything I want to, and over the top of this oil paint that I just did, it is more than perfect. So using the pen, I just added in the lines and went over all the outlines, cleaned it up, and this part is really about finalizing the piece, just adding a few more details here and there, going over each line, and then going again in the brush with the brush and adding slightly extra details in acrylic that I didn't achieve with the oil. So there we have it, guys. That's about it for my process and how I paint light in my work. I know that this has been very brief, but I know that lighting is a subject that can be studied for hours. So I think in the future I'm just going to be continuing talking about how I draw light or paint light, so that you can always learn alongside me as I go. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you have any questions relating to it, let me know below. I'm happy to help and answer your questions. But yeah, that's about it, guys. So see you in the next video. Bye.